am I doing the right suitability testing for you as a business? That, do I have checks and guards in place so it's not suddenly a single huge payment that's coming down the line? So I think there are two parts to data. The protection part, fundamental, table stakes, you can't get on without it. But there's the other part, how do I add value? How do I build it into your life? When I bought my first house, what I was excited about was the house. What I hated was the mortgage process. So how do I let you get on with buying the house and take the mortgage as invisible as possible? I think that's the challenge, not just for the technology companies, but obviously for the established financial institutions.
Great, thank you so much. Let's take another question in terms of shifting back to the regulators. A good question here is, what was the process that you used to engage with the regulators in your markets to ensure that you could safely participate in this business and continue to innovate? So I'd like to hear from some of our panelists and then also hear from Pa Santoso from his side as to what he sees as the most effective approach. So shall we start maybe with Maria?
So I think our experience has been probably a little bit different because when we started working in the Philippines, there was no set framework for what we were trying to do. There was no regulation of virtual currency at that point, nothing on blockchain. So what is important and what definitely requires it is to engage the regulators, be transparent about what you're trying to achieve and how you're doing it, and hear their advice. The biggest things that we've learned in our operations has been through constant engagement with the central bank and understanding what are they looking for, what are they really care about, because this is actually years and years of industry experience and best practices that we need to incorporate into our own business and try to, as much as possible, automate and complement with technology. When it comes to having a mobile wallet, there's businesses and the regulation around e-wallet is quite advanced in the Philippines. We've seen it in the past few years. So there is what you need to really care about what you're offering is taking money from a customer, putting it in your online system, and then making them trust you that you're holding the money securely. So there's specific guidelines that you need to follow, and there's no cutting corners, because at the end of the day that's going to harm the consumers, even if it makes it harder for you to operate. So there's some things that, although you'd like not to have to do, they're really important, and then along the way you learn how to value. For example, reporting obligations are very heavy, and it comes along with just being regulated. But at the end of the day, that adds a lot more level of comfort for any person in management who's signing off and understanding about the transparency of their business. We've learned to engage regulators, but also listen and not having to challenge what the law is. You can recommend suggestions. For us, the biggest thing has been we don't have an agent model. We do not have any of our agents. We leverage our partners' networks. So you don't have to look for a Coins agent. You have to look for a Saborna, a Mulir, or a Palawan agent, and you can deposit funds to your Coins wallet. In those cases, we're not able though, so some of our other market participants, they leverage their physical locations to conduct face-to-face. So but we didn't have that. That didn't mean we didn't have to comply. We just had to find another way to do it. The way that we figured out how to do it would be use technology for this. And there is internet, there is Skype, there is selfies. There's various ways of being able to understand whether the customer who's applying to use the real customer who's going to use your platform. So these are the things where you have to be a little bit more creative and consider technology and product changes to comply with the regulation.
Great. Pa Santoso, from your perspective, how did you engage with the private sector? What was the most effective approach?
I think we actually very positive to new innovation, since those innovation create benefit for the customer. Then, under still corridor of the customer protection principle, that is very important. And then actually there is a corridor of the law that been set up. Since actually. Sometimes the loan themselves is unclear, so a bit complicated actually. So actually for the banking product is under the OJK, but for the payment product is under the central bank. Then but sometimes, the product is clear, but the institution who issue the product is under OJK. So actually, but I think the point is we have to have a good communication among agency. That's very important, and they come up with the same understanding on this. So in the case of Dunia, we don't have any problem on this. Then actually, whatever the product is, the key is whether create benefit for the people, and then actually we still the corridor customer protection, and also in line with the government program, how really to create employment, and then also to create multiplier of the economy, and then actually minimum to create distortion, and then how to really to mitigate the risk if there is any. So that way it's very proactive, very new innovation with especially from the private sector. Then the government, actually any government agency will be supportive how to provide the ecosystem on this, about the telecommunication coverage, and then as well law and regulation, actually is dedicated really how to really to best interest for the people.
Good, thank you. I'm going to jump down the list a little bit. I like this question. What are the top 3 things needed to become a market disruptor? And I think I'll hand that over to you, Rajiv.
Yeah, so I guess I'd say the product market fit is obviously a core one that, maybe let me step back. If it's 3, then I'd say a set of founders who come with a vision, that they genuinely have a vision for what is it that they're trying to break through. Second, that they have a tech product capability that allows them to execute against that vision at speed, at scale. And third is a very, very heavy dollop of luck. And whether that's luck in form of finding the right investors, finding the right regulatory framework, finding the right competitive environment, which allows them to thrive. But I'd say, if I think back to Grab's journey, I'd say those were the 3 things. 2 co-founders who came together, who had a genuine vision for their society and Southeast Asia. Finding technology and product leaders who could translate that vision into a service that worked, and a massive dollop of luck, tailwind, that's gotten them to where they are.
Great, thank you. Ed, would you like to add to this as well?
Yeah, I think it's real great points that Rajiv just made, but then I just want to add one thing there. Having a great combination of the founders with vision and the money and luck, and then having great market is all good. But at the same time, I think something that's really important for a disruptor to be successful is having a grit, being able to overcome all the roadblocks that you will be facing, right? Having a great vision is great, and then showing you a great picture of where to go. But then there's no doubt that you will be facing with tons of obstacles, right? From the market, from the regulators, and so on. So in order to plow through and then make your vision a reality, I think you need to have a grit and then not giving up. But then at the same time, you should be able to have a flexibility to adjust your plan and then maybe the path or the strategy in order to get to your vision successfully.
Great, thank you. As we move towards the end of the session, I think I'd like to shift to the future and to have each of our panelists talk about what they see in terms of key trends in their respective businesses over the next 2 years. What are the important initiatives or factors that need to be addressed to propel those trends? Also, I saw that there were some questions that were coming in from the audience kind of around this issue as well too. So maybe we could start with Pa Sentosa, if you could address that issue.
Yeah, I think our life been surrounded by the digital, anything. Daily life in Indonesia, I think not only in the city, in the rural area, people are amazing with digital. Kid, parent, if you sit in the restaurant, a family having dinner, everybody waiting for a meal, they start with chatting with gadget to somebody else. So everything will be digitalized, so be ready. And then the current law and regulation, we have to rethinking about how, because the current law and regulation has been established with the background without any technology. But with technology should be different. Otherwise, and then we are unable to restrict them. You know, in the case of Indonesia, even the P2P lending is very difficult to encourage them to register. According to them, they better off unregistered. And then actually we have to be very careful, and then actually to remind them, of course, enforcing by revoking the platform is not solution, because we revoke in the evening, they reopen in the morning. So it's very tiring, And then about the ethical code is very important, how to enforce. Education and, or probably we have to, have a test case, to enforce about the violating the, and then data protection is very important. Everybody understands, you violate ethical code if you share the individual data without, get permission from the person, but sometimes it's very difficult, And then ethical code and the collection. That actually is, then how to deal with this? It is about the communication, education of the people is very important. Yeah. Then without, jeopardizing the, about the incumbent, a lot of response to the incumbent. Look at this. We call it the predatory in the competition something. But actually, fair enough, okay, if you believe you less competitive, you can do the same business if you want. On top of the licensing is clear. We can very proactive on this. Yeah. So actually, but of course, there will be some segmentation of business model. For probably the corporate bank, it is not quite, useful to come up with some product for the retail, for instance. Yeah, probably retail banker that probably they are interested to get the same similar process. Yeah, so that way will be some of the segmentation of this. But in short, actually, government will be proactive, even to recognize the benefit and also to mitigate the distortion about the incumbent and also about the data protection and so on. So actually, discussion and dialogue is very important to this. Thank you.
Very interesting. Maria, what are your thoughts?
Definitely agree that digital is kind of the path, and I think that's primary. It is a primary kind of market and a secondary market, if that's possible to say. So there will be, from what we see, is that a lot of the regulators are becoming a little more proactive, and there's definitely a wave of regulation coming from various agencies on various different aspects, because they have a better understanding. As an industry, we've done a good job about educating and embracing and including them. So now it's their response, it's their time to respond and provide a framework for us to operate, which is why self-regulation and also the different associations and self-regulatory bodies are really important. But then there's a key thing: once disruptors or other more innovative firms are ready to be regulated, what comes under is understanding there's a pain that comes along sometimes with regulation, where you have to face it. So there's a secondary market that will arise with the rise of FregTech. So I think that's the next piece, that we're going to see a lot more firms getting involved. KYC or reporting are not going to be the only kind of business models evolving around RegTech. In terms of business models becoming more and more prevalent, we'll see a lot more interest around QR. And generally across, and just generally having a set common benchmark and standard across the different means of moving money, transacting, having a QR. So now QR is going to be based on a single standard. Potentially that could go across Southeast Asia. Maybe that's the next way, the next easier way to do remittances. So everything right now is going to move more along how the potential disruptors are ready to collaborate with each other and with the regulators.
Great, thanks. Ed, Rajiv, last comments?
So in the light of the financial inclusion, I think the areas the technology companies should be focusing on for the next 2 or 3 years should be area where the data availability for consumers have been pretty limited. So mainly, I would say investments and insurance. So insurance especially is an area or the financial sector where the data asymmetrical structure of data availability has been pretty critical, right? So insurance company, they know everything about you, and they know how to set up the price, how to pay out, and so on. But then as a consumer, you have very limited view. You don't know how the price was set up, and then you are not sure whether the premium, the hefty premium that you are paying every month, will be paying out, will have any value down the road. So I think technology companies should work hard to reduce this gap and then bring more information, bring choices to consumers so that they know the choices or the insurance products that they are buying are the right fit for them, and then they will return value down the road for him or herself or their families eventually. So I believe the insurance is one area, and then the last area will be the wealth management. There is a perception where wealth management is only for wealth people. But then I believe that perception should be broken down, and then we as a financial service disruptor or the innovators should allow everyone to be able to have better handle of their financial health. That should start with having better understanding of their spending habits, their investment status, or how their insurance will pay out eventually down the road. So I think this insurance investments as well as the wealth management should be the area of the next innovation.
Okay, very quickly, I guess when you're talking about the future, speaking last on the panel is never helpful because all the interesting points are already covered. If I were to say just one thing, I'd probably talk about that I think the next generation of disruption will be all about partnership. Because as of today, our biggest competition in Southeast Asia is not other wallets, it's cash. It's lack of credit history, it's SMEs that are not digital. That's our competition, because that's true for 99% of the universe, 99% of the transactions. It's the competition, so-called, operates in top 5% of the transactions. And for that to change, it's going to be about partnership amongst established institutions, new companies, regulators, so on and so forth. So I'll just say that.
Thank you so much. The timer is flashing at me right now, so I want to wind up the session. We've covered a lot of really interesting ground today. I want to thank our panelists. You've given us a lot of interesting insights from all over, and especially in terms of covering different business models. And special thanks to Pa Santosa today, who joined us. Thank you all for participating in this session. Thank you.
So, this mic is also, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time for our last session of the third Asia Finance Forum. And we want to make sure that you are very much involved in that. So we are going to have conversations, and I would like to request a slide with a guiding question. We are going to change the room one more last time, and there are colleagues running around with signages, and these are geographic indications where you should proceed to, and we try to form groups of approximately 8 people, give and take. So 8 doesn't mean 15 or groups of 3, yeah? So about 8 people, and we have every good conference should have a reflection about what have we learned, what are our insights, right? Very often we go to a conference and we don't spend any minute on what are our insights. So after having participated for 2 days or even more in the Asia Finance Forum and the preceding Finance Academy, we would like to ask you, what are your major lessons or insights? And what are you taking back to your respective homes or countries or offices? So you do a quick, what we call round robin, you share in the group, very quick, yeah, 1 minute max. And then second question, what are you going to do differently? Or what are you going to start doing, stop doing, do more, do less? And last but not least, the bonus question for you, how can ADB help you? How can we collaborate better? There are colleagues also from the geographically oriented departments in the ADB around. They will also join the conversation, listen in, or maybe even engage, so that we have a closing conversation. About 20 minutes we have time for that. Then Dr. Jungtu Lee will actually interview 4 of you who already know that they will be interviewed, but additionally we both will ask for additional 1-minute insights from different parts of the world, so that we learn from each other. And then our Vice President Gupta, who's already among us, I think, he will actually do some short closing remarks, and we have a final gong and off we go. Okay, that's the plan. So can you see the signs already? I see Central and West Asia. If you belong in this area, please take your luggage and try to form groups of 8. You can also just turn chairs around or find a table. You might meet some people you haven't met yet. Southeast Asia is over here. Everybody from Southeast Asia, including Timor-Leste, please come here. East Asia is in the east. That's very much over there. The private sector